Hello, hello. The next one is a song from Palestine.
Welcome to Radio Against Repression. You're listening to 88.4.
Another can of worms, another stomach turns. Yeah, you get a burn. It's the song I hate. It's the song I hate. It's the song I hate. It's the song I hate.
Hey, welcome back to Radio Against Repression. That was Youth Against Fascism from Sonic Youth. A bit of a change to the schedule. If you're tuning in to listen to Ricochet live on the air, I'll pick that up again in 1 hour. But for now, we're going to do a very special episode of Radio Against Repression. This is going to be honoring the Statue of Peace. We have Aiko here live in the studio, and we have Zoe Claire Miller down the line. A couple of housekeeping details before we get into this show. Radio Against Repression is currently in the midst of a fundraising campaign, pretty much launched this morning. There's a lot more sort of information about that. We don't want to go into it too much, and there'll be following announcements coming up. But if you head over to GoFundMe, then it's Keep Radio Against Repression Going is the name of the fundraiser. And the easiest way to find all that stuff is going to be through our Instagram, which is @subtextradio. So today we're going to be talking about the removal of Ari, the peace statue in Berlin. And I think probably the best way to open that is to read a statement which we sort of put together, and then we'll get into some witness accounts and some expert analysis. So with the removal of Ari, a statue commemorating the sexual slavery of over 200,000 women at the hands of the Japanese military during World War II, Berlin once again enacts political censorship through the arts. In 1992, the Korean Council for Women, drafted for military sexual slavery by Japan, began weekly Wednesday protests. To commemorate the 1000th protest, a public statue known as the Statue of Peace was installed opposite the Japanese embassy in Seoul. Ari, a sister to that statue, is a sculpture of a young woman created by the Korean artists Kim Seo-kyung and Kim Eun-sung, located in the Berlin district of Moabit, until the 18th of October 25. The campaign in Germany seeks to put pressure on the Japanese government for acknowledgement and reparation, while also drawing attention to the politicians in Germany that have pushed for her removal. Stefanie Remlinger of the Green Party and former Berlin Mayor Kai Wegner, to name but two. We chart the history of this powerful movement, the relevance of its goals and strategies for contemporary Germany, and the attempts of multiple politicians to relativize the specific crimes of the Japanese army in a manner that attempts to obscure the established pipeline between sexual abuse, anti-democratic efforts, and the billionaire class. So welcome, Ari. First of all, I'd like to introduce the activist and broadcaster who has arguably been most closely on the ground and most close to events as they've been unfolding. Perhaps you would give us a sort of an overview or a run-through of the campaign and where the statue is today.
Hi, so I just start directly. Hi, I'm Aiko, and then thank you for inviting me. And so maybe I'm not the most closest one, since there are many women working at the statue. So like we all have fought last 5 years to keep Ari alive in Moabit. And so from the beginning there was very much pressure from the Japanese government and there were many different groups in Berlin gathered at the statue. So that was for me also very important that I came to this movement, since I could identify with Ari very much. And until then, I wanted to be like a white German.
Right.
So that gave me very much my identity as an Asian woman. And like there are really many flinter also male people supporting this. Sorry, I become instantly super emotional. I can't very construct the thing, but so yeah, if I talk about the most near history of this removal, then even the BVV, the Bezirks, district council, decided several times to keep the statue permanently, but the Bezirks mayor, the Stefanie Remlinger of Grune, she decided by herself of the removal of statue. And then she decided, okay, Ari can stay until 28th of September this year. But then like after that, it's over. We should remove this by ourselves. And also she put a Mitteilung press release by herself that, yeah, she's happy that Ari found a new place at the neighbor's place and blah, blah. But we were in a conversation with neighbors. They were supporting us very much all the time, but still it was not yet decided. But then she did a press release, happy Ari found another private place, it's all fine. But then it was not. So we made a Klage to the Verwaltung Administrative Court that we should keep this statue, which was then denied on 13th of October. And then from that 14th, we did everyday vigil at the statue. And then we were kind of expected anytime transportation of Ari. But then at the same time also we made another Klage at the Oberverwaltungsgericht, so more higher administrative court, which was then rejected on 16th. And in the morning of 17th, the police came with, I think, 20 policemen, women.
Wow.
And then with the truck, and then Ali got covered with this Mara teppich.
Like a painter's sheet.
Exactly. And then, yeah, the statue was transported away.
I see.
Yeah, I was not in that morning immediately, but then like my comrade, actually she was invited as a Ostasian anti-colonial. He was there with some neighbors, and then like he wrote me, like the police came, and then I went there, but it was already gone. And then there was just an empty place. And yeah, in the evening already many people came together with cats and candles. And yeah, it was very emotional, since really many of us, we shared our story about our experience. Many people, like especially Kurdish women's group, were very often at the demonstration, and we shared our pain at Ari, and then this was took by the government. Even the citizen wanted to have the statue. It was very much brutal. And also, like, it's really not democratic. I mean, like, I'm not believing in democracy in Germany anymore anyway. Although, like, this is a very good example that democracy is not working in Germany, since the Bürgermeisterin decided, oh, I don't want to have this, so I removed this. And then we need to pay the transportation. So that is now the situation that if we pay the transport cost, then we can get Ari back.
I see. So it's literally kind of kidnapping the statue at this point.
Yeah, so like we know that Ari is now kept by the Straßenbau- and Grundflächenamt of Mitte district, but we still can't get her back since we didn't pay the transportation.
Okay.
So that is the very situation of today.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's quite a vivid description, actually. So we have also artist and activist and former spokesperson for the BBK, Zoe, down the line. Zoe, are you with us? Yeah?
Yeah.
Wonderful. We were wondering, we were thinking that the point of entry might be to give perhaps a sort of political history of the statue's removal.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this has been a conflict that is with such high power figures at such high levels of national governments involved, playing out on a regional level and over the field or in the format of art and public sculpture. It really, I think, speaks to how much symbolic value art can have. I first came in contact or heard about Ari in 2020 when the statue had just recently been installed, and basically immediately, allegedly, Japan's then foreign minister Motegi Toshimutsu called up the German foreign minister, Heiko Maas, and pressured the German foreign minister to get rid of the statue. And so apparently he had called the then district mayor of the district of Mitte, where the statue was located, and this was Stefan von Dassel, who was pleased to oblige and immediately took steps to try and remove the statue. And there was really large community support and outcry over this. There were a lot of protests, and then this whole story, which was now briefly described, basically started with kind of this battle over who decides what can be in public space, and yeah, whether democratic rights play a role in this, or if top-down decisions based on political pressure from foreign countries have the final say. And yeah, in Berlin, we're having a lot of corruption issues with the CDU party, the Conservative Party. And so after initially Ari was permitted to stay, things kind of took up pace with the press release issued by Kai Wegner, our current mayor in Berlin, who made an announcement on the occasion of 30 years of city partnership Berlin-Tokyo. He had met with Japan's foreign minister Yoko Kamikawa, and so in his press release he wrote that the governing mayor indicated that a solution for the controversial memorial to the comfort women in Berlin was in the works. He stated that he was in contact with all parties involved, including the district and federal government. Quote, "It's important that we achieve change." He advocated for a memorial against violence against women, but stressed that a one-sided depiction should no longer be permitted.
Crazy.
The governing mayor announced that he would also involve the Japanese ambassador in the discussions. So after this, the Korea Association immediately also came out with a press release saying, no, we're not one of the parties who is in touch, who is in discussion, who is being involved in this decision making. And then there were some stories about basically very straightforward bribery, about politicians and members of a board that decides on funding being invited to a fancy dinner by the Japanese embassy.
Right.
And being pressured to defund an ongoing project that the Korea Verband had been running, which was based on and involved Ari, the statue. So this was also quite scandalous and quite wild. And this also really ties into, so basically there had been funding, and this funding was then discontinued after there was this question of influence from Japan on the mayor and on the jury. They had been receiving funding for a project that was within the field of cultural education. They were supposed to, or they applied for 87,000 euros then in 2024, and they did not receive it. And there were statements made that undue and inappropriate influence was issued on the jury from politicians. So basically, the jury had recommended that this project be funded, but then apparently this was Falko Lieke, a quite right-wing CDU politician, who really brought in the pressure to say, no, I have been told, or I'm handing this down from a higher power, which probably means Kai Wegner, that this cannot be funded.
Wow.
Yeah, so it sounds so cliche, fancy dinner parties for the sake of corruption, and basically now this is also, it's part of a larger story of influence being taken on independent juries, and
Yeah,
at this point
it's a
now,
real
most
sort of viper's
recently.
nest, isn't it?
And
Yeah. And now 4 out of 6 of the jury members from the Berlin Project Fund for Cultural Education have resigned, criticizing the Senate and stating that they're not able to work independently.
Wow. This is this is something that you see mirrored in other places. Yara, Yara is also, of course, in the studio.
yeah, I'm also here. Hi, everyone. Alex did not go that rogue. We might be going rogue with the timing of this episode, but
Rogue is the theme.
It's still the two of us. Yeah, I mean, tying this into just the question of political corruption with funding projects is that very recently, also in Berlin, a very big scandal was uncovered around the former cultural minister Joe Cialo funding a bunch of sort of quote unquote projects against anti-Semitism that were really just like right-wing conservative pet projects tied to, you know, have Staatsräson and unconditionally supporting the state of Israel, including the Nova exhibition in Tempelhof that got, I think it was 1.4 million euros of funding, and is. Yeah, and then there was another scandal this week where it was uncovered that this exhibition, that the Bezirk, so the district of Berlin, had been sending emails to teachers, advertising that they go to this exhibition with their kids, which is a big question of corruption, because no, you can't just advertise for a private exhibition, except like there's limits on how you can do it. And yeah, also just like this is super not
to mention
suited
the
for
content.
kids.
Yeah, the content is not
Yeah, the
child
content
friendly.
is really not suited. So it's so clear that this is just a propaganda push. And then it's projects like the Korea Verband, and every other sort of, you know, anti-colonial project that then suffers because that is where the funding gets taken away from. But maybe let's take a whole bigger step back. So Ari is, the name of the statue is Ari. It's a young woman sitting on a bench. And she is one of the so-called comfort women, or in German it's Trostfrauen. Aiko, can you tell us like what were the comfort women?
So, like as Alex was mentioning briefly at the beginning, the Ari is representing so-called comfort women who was sexually enslaved by the Japanese military during the Second World War, Asian Pacific War, and then the slavery was very, very extremely really slim, bad, and like so many of women were like unknowingly taken from the family. They were told like, yeah, you will work at the fabric or like a hospital or whatever, and then they were then forced for the sex or like raped all day for several years if they are unlucky. And then like many people got also threatened by these soldiers by swords, and then some were also killed. And so the condition was really inhuman and then really bad. And then after the war, after they came back to their original place, they were also discriminated from family as someone who were raped several times. So they didn't feel well also at home. So from at 1995, the first woman, Kim Hak-sun, she publicly said she was one of these comfort women.
Wow.
So that was the very first of this whole movement. And then like after Kim Hak-sun, many women said like I was also the one. So everyone started to cover the history, and then the discover the history, and then media coverage and so on. But then the Korea at the time of Second World War was still one Korea, But then in that time it was South Korea, and then South Korea and Japan, both government wanted to have a nice relationship. So they made at the 2015 agreement about that this comfort women issue was solved, and then we are good friends. So we don't talk about this anymore.
Wow.
So basically both governments agreed we don't talk about this, and then the compensation was not made by the government, but then Japanese government let someone make the Stiftung, foundation, and then the normal citizens made donation for this foundation to make compensation for the comfort women. But some of the comfort women wanted to have the real compensation from the government, so they denied to get this money, and then they keep fighting. And also some of them still alive today and fighting to have the real, including apologize and also compensation.
Yeah.
And Japanese government is saying this was well paid prostitution, and they had good life. Their family unfortunately didn't have money, so the girls did great work, whatever. So they are misusing the whole history. And then also that is why I think in Japan it's really difficult to speak about sexualized violence. And then the victims are more blamed by the whole society.
So it's a story of really horrific imperial sexual violence that to this day has not seen any justice, and we to this day have survivors of that who are fighting for justice, and the governments that follow the perpetrators refuse to have that. And then Ari was set up in 2020, the statue here in Berlin. We went into this question a little bit of who gets to decide what is in public space. What did that mean for you and for people from the Korea-Verband, from the AG Trostfrauen groups that you are involved with? What does it mean to have Ari there as this representation in the public space in Berlin?
Yeah, it's really, really important for all of us, since there are many generations of people near to the statue. But first of all, the Korean woman, elderly woman, they came in the 60s as the Krankenschwester, the nurse. And then they after some time they didn't get contract and they should leave Germany, but then they fought together to stay in Germany. So they are already a very strong community of Korean women, and then they made very much effort to get a statue in Berlin. Without their effort, there have been no Ari anyway. So for them, it was a very big achievement, I think. And then they presented us the next generation of Asian people here. Since, as I already mentioned, we had a very much demonstration, because the Ari was from the beginning threatened to leave, so we did very much rally at the Ari, which made us more stronger community. And then the significant one was, I think, as in the Atlanta shooting of the many Asian women, we had this commemorating rally, and which was made by In Memory in Resistance. And we gathered together, and then we confronted with this Asian discrimination against Asian people, and then shared our experience. And also in the Corona time, we had very much discrimination about as we are virus, and so we had very difficult time. But still, because of Ari, we could identify ourselves there, and then we can meet there and then share our story as Asian people, and then also other communities came together, since the sexual violence is present, unfortunately, everywhere. And so the Ari meant us very, very much in fight against sexualized violence in the conflict time, but also in the daily life. And I was very much every time felt empowered as we had rally, and then everyone shared their experience, and then made strong for Ali.
Thank you.
I think it's also important to note that although the majority of comfort women were from Korea, this sexual enslavement by Japanese troops, it really hit many women from other countries as well. So
14
Australia,
countries,
Burma, China, Netherlands, Korea, Indonesia, East Timor, New Guinea. So this agenda of historical revisionism really isn't an issue between the people of one country and the people of another country. It's between the government of one country, where I think it's also really important to pay attention now to Germany's role in acquiescing to this request for the removal of the statue for the sake of a historical revisionist agenda, that Germany and Japan were part of the Axis together. They were the Axis powers, a military coalition consisting of Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. So for Germany to be playing this role now of accepting these requests is also just a very, very unnerving rollback and historical flashback to previous coalitions.
Yeah, and sort of characteristic of its role in kind of attempting to neutralize and whitewash the crimes of foreign nations. I mean, we're sitting in a country that has the reason of state as genocide, right? Whichever way you look at it.
And I think so much about Caroline Preisler, who, for those of you who don't know her, is a white German lady, a politician of the FDP, which is the Liberal Party, which got kicked out of the government in the last election, which was very fun. And she has been coming to protest the Palestine solidarity protests in Berlin ever since, for the last 2 years with a little sign. She has several different ones, but one that she carries a lot is "Rape is not resistance." And so she's repeating this atrocity propaganda of, mass rapes that happened through Palestinian armed resistance on October 7th, which obviously, like, it is totally possible. Basically, it's so hard to say these things. There has been a UN inquiry, and they have not found any proof of systemic sexualized violence. There have been a bunch of reports that have been completely debunked as atrocity propaganda. And that is not to say that there definitely did not happen, like there were no rapes on October 7th. I don't know that. We can't say that for sure, but it has been completely disproven.
Yeah, I mean, observers would say it would be very unlikely if there wasn't some form of sexual violence, but that doesn't amount to a campaign.
Exactly, because sexual violence really underpins so much of general violence, physical violence,
warfare.
Like really, all of warfare has aspects of sexualized violence. But to basically claim that there was mass rapes on October 7th is atrocity propaganda that Caroline Preisler is really pushing. And she just got a prize for civil courage for that. So this how sexualized violence is used in times of war, and how it is also used as a propaganda tool, like when it benefits the imperialists. So right now it benefits Germany to sort of point to alleged sexualized violence and be like, oh, these people they're all animals. And at other times when it's about the comfort women, Germany is all too happy to completely silence the survivors and to engage in this historical revisionism. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that we come back to in this podcast is kind of the conflict over public space and what can be said and by whom, right? And for example, Friedrich Merz kind of made this very racist statement about, lock up your daughters. And he was directly referring to, threats from asylum seekers and migrants, which were completely, I mean, the guy has really, alleged. I mean, he hasn't leg to stand on, as, many, many women and came out and sort of spontaneously protested against those statements. But then also like the demographic of those women was mostly white, and it was kind of couched in a particular white feminist logic, right? So we're talking a little bit about the sort of systems that find a way to recycle the critique against them and to sort of support their own kind of upside down arguments. I'm going to play this one track from AGF, which features a lecture by Angela Dimitri-Katki, who is a professor of fine art and theory at Edinburgh University. It's only 3 minutes, so it's pretty impressive work to compress it this far. And then we can get into kind of like art washing and the way that that kind of unfolds as a practice in Germany at the moment as well. So stay with us.
Capitalism at present, I would say, produces all positions, even the opposition to itself. How capitalism would exist without this opposition to itself? Because it needs this task of transcending, it needs the struggle. It feeds it. It's a complex monster. It's not only that everything is done within capitalism, but capitalism is also done within ourselves. We do have this notion in contemporary theory of embodied capitalism. It's a rather complex notion. It's a complex monster. I think that we need another notion that goes beyond the level of the body, that captures the entire process of life. But that again differentiates between bios, vios in Greek, which is a kind of social life.
Yeah, so I thought not only does that bring us back to maybe some of the kind of industrial music of Berlin, but it's also a rather beautiful rendition of the way in which you can take an intellectual object and kind of breathe it through your audience.
What
so
was the name of that song?
Yeah, that's Kapitalis Monster featuring Angela Dimitri-Katki. That's from RGF, from the 2018 album From Conception to Evolution. Shout out to RGF. Everyone should check out.
Yes, I
their
will
work.
send it to her.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, wicked. So, but also aside from the industrial quality of that piece, there's an organization, Zoe, that you used to work for, the BBK, which has come under a great deal of scrutiny, and we are some of us members of this kind of organization and have been trying to campaign to have them address various issues of censorship and police violence against members. I mean, there's a lot of things. And so what the BBK has done is sort of framed its program for the autumn as a kind of autumn of protest. And I felt like that was another mechanism of trying to sort of capture dissent and then repackage it as something to be kind of consumed by the membership and by the wider public, who then don't really understand where that's come from. And maybe we could talk about that in the context of the Ari statue, which has now also been replaced, right?
replace is maybe not the right word, but then like Stefanie Remlinger was then like made new foundation and then welcomed another sculpture called Petrified Survivor.
Right.
And maybe Zoe can tell more deeper story of this, but then like it is having more small merkmale, like points presenting all these war conflict zone. And then like so for Stefanie Remlinger, this is more universal, while Ari is just representing Korean woman, which is really not true. Like we can see in Ari so many stories, but then she wants to limit the remembrance in certain regions. And then so this is again the case that the German wants to decide what is to remember and what is not.
Yeah, so on the topic of white feminism and art washing, coincidentally, 1 month after Kai Wegner's press release in which he announced that a more inclusive, more global look at sexual violence is necessary and that he's going to take care of this issue with the Comfort Women statue. 1 month later, a new organization was founded in the format of Verein, so an association. And it's called SASVIC, the Society Against Sexual Violence in Conflict. And the people who are involved in this, who are the board members, are quite fascinating people. They have close ties to the CDU, the ruling party that Kai Wegner is a member of, and also to the Greens, which is Stefanie Remlinger, the district mayor's party. And they include former weapons industry lobbyists and in general everyone who you can find anywhere online. They're all lobbyists, the people who are running this organization. And they came up with the wonderful plan to involve a British sculptor who I wouldn't say that her work is internationally known. I wouldn't say that this is artwork of international relevance or high esteem. They decided to commission a sculpture to be placed in Berlin, which addresses sexual violence and conflicts in a very general way and kind of has all of these little motifs or references within it to many different sexual violence-laden conflict zones and historical events. And so I actually reached out to the executive director of CARE, Phyllis Kim. That CARE is the Comfort Women Action Global Organization, and I asked her about CARE's stance on this sculpture, which is made by the artist Rebecca Hawkins and is called Petrified Survivors and is now in place also in Mitte in Berlin. And she told me that there had been initial contact between Rebecca and CARE, that they had concerns about sponsors of the sculpture, because one of them included Lai Dai Han, JLDH, a group that, to their knowledge, had limited connections to Vietnamese survivors, few visible survivor-centered campaigns, but included British retired diplomats and Rebecca, the artist. And they ended up asking Rebecca some direct questions about the role of this of her sculpture and what her perspective was on its function as replacing or undercutting the Statue of Peace. And basically, they ended up officially withdrawing both their attendance of the unveiling event, their support for petrified survivors. It's quite hard to figure out because basically the whole spiel, the whole USP of this sculpture is like, oh, it's involved so many different groups, it's supported by so many different activist organizations around the globe, but it's very hard to find them. And when you do find them on Rebecca Hawkins' website, many of them seem to be front organizations or have nothing to do at all with community-based work against sexual violence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I also reached out to her, and she told me all questions regarding SASVIT should be directed to the association directly. They operate independently, and as far as I'm aware, have no formal political ties. And as far as I'm aware, the unveiling had a wide spectrum of political support, which is just straight up bullshit. No one from the community was invited to the opening ceremony of the sculpture. No one from Berlin came, as far as I can see. And yeah, so basically this sculpture is definitely playing the role of replacing the Comfort Women statue. And it also ties in again to the current CDU's corruption scandals around anti-Semitism, because when you look at this coincidence of 1 month after the mayor says, oh, we need something else, we need a sculpture that isn't, that doesn't piss Japan off, and then this association being founded by fellow party members, when we look at the anti-Semitism funding scandals right now, there also is the same phenomenon of up to 500,000 going to people who are party members with the people who decided who gets the funding, who have no expertise or background in anti-Semitism prevention.
Right.
So this is really kind of a shift towards totally corrupt cultural funding and cultural education funding, and really misusing public funds to further political agendas that do not serve the community at large.
Weapons manufacturers, lobbyists are definitely the people that I want to have deciding my statues commemorating victims of sexualized violence, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make it up. Yeah.
So this is the bit where we shamelessly ask you for your support. If you think this content is important and you'd like the podcast to get its wings, consider supporting us on patreon.com/radio against repression. Even a €2 donation helps to keep the lights on. But signing up for a free membership and a 5-star rating would be so appreciated. There is no paywall, and there never will be.
I mean, there's so much to be said about the way in which the modern urban experience is kind of being hollowed out of meaning step by step as well. And that, I guess, is where it sort of, for me, feels like that this is an example, particularly with the removal of the Ari statue, that actually you see visibly the way that power shapes your urban experience, right?
It's about depersonalization of violence as well, with Kai Wegner saying, oh, the statue needs to represent not just one side. It's like, cool, so you want to represent, both the people who have suffered horrific sexualized violence through an imperial power and the imperial power that to this day denies it. Like, what is this both sidesism is just a silencing. And it ties back into this very German thing and this very liberal thing of you're allowed to name the violence in abstract terms, but never concrete. Like, you can say, oh, no, women suffer in war, basically, but you're not allowed to say Japan enslaved, 200,000 women, and to this day is refusing justice for them.
Yeah, and then even the first, it was said that the Tafel, so next to the Ari, there is the plate explaining what was comfort women and why this statue or so on. And it was saying Japan did this and that. So this was criticized as one-sided. So if the plate is different, then maybe the statue can stay. So we had also working group to change the plate, and then more specifically stating this is not only commemorating comfort women, but we are against generally universally sexualized violence. But then again, the Mitte district didn't take note on our reworking. And then saying, we asked this and that, but Korea Fairban didn't come up, and we were doing all the time what they demand. And then so much effort of really many different organizations and neighbors all together. And then this was all completely denied by the Mitte district. And then they are talking different story, which actually is not true all the time. And then saying as if they are the victims of this crazy activists and so on. So I was really, I felt very encouraging as recently this renaming of the Platz in Wedding to the Martha Ndumbe Platz. And then for the renaming ceremony, the Stefanie Remlinger was invited, but then the local organization, disinvited Stefanie Remlinger in solidarity of the Ari. So it was really cool. But then again, Stefanie Remlinger's office said like, yeah, she is anyway sick, so she couldn't come anyway. And then like,
Yeah, for context, for those who don't know, there's a square in Wedding, which is next to Moabit, so it's very close to where Ari used to stand. That was named after like a colonial actor, let's say, and it was recently renamed to the name of a victim. And I love it that they disinvited her in solidarity, even though these are two. So in Wedding, there's a lot of places named after places in Africa because of Germany's colonial history there. That's where the African Quarter is. And this square isn't in the African Quarter. It's just one of these sort of additional places that is named after colonialism in Africa. And I love that this group then said, no, if you're not gonna show up and do like a photo op with our anti-colonial struggle here if you're not supporting the other one over there.
Yeah, so like this kind of action came not like suddenly, but like this is continuous work of us all, like this decolonized working. And like we are not only working for the rights of comfort women, but all of this decolonizing movement, and then we are participating in this demonstration of alliance like every March and November. This year, November 25th, we did do the different demo since we want to more centralize the alley, but still we were always cooperating with other decolonizing women organizations in Berlin. So like all this work didn't come just one day suddenly, but like working constantly. And then this all effort was then removed by Stefanie Remlinger. And then also once we did a rally in front of the Rathaus Mitte, and then we were already gathering, and then Stefanie Remlinger came, and then I forgot what I was saying something like, yeah, keep Ari, stay here or something, and then she was like, my grandmother told me people who are screaming to you, I don't need to listen to them. Jeez. And I was like, wow.
It's so patronizing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so rude.
Yeah, crazy.
Stefanie, if you're listening now, you're going to get disinvited from a lot more.
Yeah, you're listening to 88.4 FM in Berlin and 90.7 in Potsdam.
George Yellow said that to us as well when we were protesting against the IRA clause in front of the Senate. He actually came down and then he was like, yeah, we can have the conversation, but don't yell at me. And it's like, you are... literally, actively, you are a very corrupt person and you are enacting censorship. I think getting yelled at is the least of the price that you should pay for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems to me that it's really exactly what you're describing, Aiko, of the community movement behind it. There's the threat, as much as it's the pressure from the Japanese ministry and the other various interest groups.
Yeah, so like if you see like now Stintino in Sardinia, there is also one statue of peace, and then but the city mayor said like she got also a phone call from the Japanese foreign minister, but she said no, we keep this.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's it. So they keep the statue, no pressure.
Yeah.
It's fine. And then so Berlin could have said that too. But then, like, at that time, like, von Dassel, he was, like, performing, he got all this petition by himself. He came up to the rally. And then, like, doing, I'm concerning, but still he denied. And then this is same with the Remlinger. Oh, I'm really concerning about sexualized violence, but, like,
but just not in my quartier, like not in my backyard or not in my front garden.
Only in the political framing that I decide, not that you decide.
Yeah, as a weapon to use against migrants. Yeah.
Along the lines of
Yeah.
art washing, I was curious because so Stefanie Remlinger and the Greens of Mitte seem to be following a multi-pronged strategy to cope with how much criticism they were getting over deciding to take down the peace statue. And I was wondering if anyone heard any press about or heard anything about at all this academic event that took place just it was from Wednesday the 5th of November until I think like lasted for 4 days. It's called Trauma Memory Warning, Sexual Violence and Armed Conflicts. And the Bezirksamt Mitte, the district of Mitte, had announced in February of 25, when they started to really say like, oh, the Comfort Women statue has to go. They had said, I think as part of the strategy of trying to diffuse criticism, like, oh, this is such an important topic, we're going to fund / co-host a whole academic conference on the subject of sexualized violence in conflicts. And I took a look at this event, and it took place in a museum which has its own very conflicted history in terms of historical revisionism. But I noted that no one from Korea was invited, and the woman invited to speak on the topic of sexual violence coming from Japanese soldiers in World War II was Japanese.
Right.
To her credit, she doesn't seem to be someone who's perpetuating the historical revisionism of Japan on this, but I felt like it was quite wild that, no one else from Asia at all, I think, was on the list of academics invited to speak. On sexual violence in general, and this was part of their strategy to handle their shitstorm around what they were doing to Ari.
Yeah, I mean, it's hand in hand between academia and the arts and cultural sector to reinforce the status quo and produce meaning that people can then reconsume and reproduce in society. It's been like we've got to finish up in a few minutes, but if there are some last pointers, announcements, themes, subjects, I would like to make space for that. Aiko, is anything coming up particularly, or anything we should look out for, or your other work, or your broadcasting work?
So like, but I think it's now at this moment really not important. But we are looking for find the place. I mean, like we want to Ari get back to the place where she has been whole 5 years, but then also actively looking for different opportunities. For example, ZKU, which is also in the neighborhood, they offer to put the Ari on their ground, but they are also verpachtet, like renting from Mitte district.
Yeah.
So like Mitte denied to put this on the ground.
Wow, so even a private art institution,
Exactly,
not private,
ZKU
but
can't do
state-funded.
their decision on the ground.
Wow.
So like there is many, like Mitte is doing everything to deny Ari staying with Mitte.
I love the amount of artistic freedom we have in Germany.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aiko. Thank you so much, Zoe.
Thank you.
Announcements. I mean, maybe really quick. I'm doing a walking tour through the African Quarter tomorrow in Wedding. That is at 4. Sign up at cqs.berlin. We're going to be talking about colonial narratives and Germany's colonial history in Africa. That's Thursday.
Thursday the 20th, yeah.
Thursday the 20th, yeah. It's
try and get
probably
it-
going to be over by the time most people hear it. But if you're on the radio right now.
Try and get the podcast out as soon as possible, yeah. And, I think this is probably not the last time that we discuss this subject, and hopefully we'll have both of you back on as well. Zoe, thank you so much always for your research and just general support with all of this work.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to listen to some Korean workers chanting and singing that you brought with us, and that will bring us to the end of today's show. So, thank you all, of course, again. And thank you for listening. This has been Radio Against Repression, 88.4 Berlin and 90.7 Potsdam. Stay safe and stay well. Ciao.
Aloha.